So we're going to talk about transhuman things, or PISS, the play two of the Camelot Quintet. I wanted to just mention the epigraph here. I think this is the first time you've used an epigraph of your own.
Hmm.
Years later, he will notice the mathematical structure of Cal's pleasure, the sense of the wind for loss, and not be as special as he is now. Dimmed by the strangeness of this realization, he will know the clouds do not imply but infer. He will know what fuels a melody is cast from another growth, a delirium that gleams its strike along out into the fields where wonder is not the product of stature.
It's calves and stipple. You mispronounced those two, but anyway. So I did that. I right now in the fifth play, I'm also probably going to use an epigraph for myself, but I'm thinking of maybe changing that one. But this is of the first four plays that I've finished. This is my favorite of the four plays that I've written in the Arthurian one, because it features Sir Gawain and the Sons of Lot, and it's got the least amount of characters of the five plays that I've written so far. It's the most intense, the most brooding and intense, and Sir Gawain is by far, I think, the best and my most favorite of the Arthurian characters. And here is where I restore him to his rightful place as the greatest of Camelot's knights.
I wanted to talk about this series as a whole, too, from what I've read of it. So I've read three of the Camelot plays, and they read almost like a long novel as opposed to just a play-by-play sketch. Sometimes they sort of end as a lead into the next one. They're not like the con plays that way, where the con plays were very standalone. You get more character from reading them successively than you do reading each one by itself, like you do with the con plays, where you get each of the great cons. I think that's an interesting technique. It reminds me of the Maximus poems a bit, and I think too that this is not my favorite of the plays, but I think that it's interesting. You have all of the characters dealing with interesting ethical quandaries. For Sir Gawain, he's dealing with this quote unquote monster. And the great revelation at the end where he kills this woman who may be the monster, and if it is the monster, it's a very malicious creature that can change its form and force Sir Gawain into being guilty the rest of his life over killing this woman who was in fact the monster. But then we get lead over into the next play that where someone else may have killed the monster, and Sir Gawain may have killed this woman, just out of some because I think he kills her in some kind of dark
cave.
Scene.
It's a cave.
Yeah, and when he ends up killing her, you can't really see what he's doing, so he may have just killed a woman for no reason whatsoever. I also think there's a lot. It's interesting when you note that you deconstructed the mythos. I was thinking that particularly in the second play of this quintet that we're going to talk about. This one sort of unravels the Sir Gawain character, makes him the greatest of all the knights, uses, I believe, his brother as an in to him, where he's having all these dream scenes. And I think that's just an interesting touch as well. Talk a little bit why this is your favorite too, outside of its intensity. It also reminded me a little bit of Bergman at the beginning. Obviously, the stuff to persona is laid bare. But yeah, that's probably why this isn't as much of. I don't enjoy this one as much as the first one or the third one, because it reminded me quite a bit of Bergman.
Well, basically, this play is again. I mean, the first play sets up the whole quintet, and that's fathers and sons. It's setting up and rejiggering the mythos. This next play, this play we're talking about, this is basically about male violence. We have Sir Gawain, his buddy or his rival or his friendly rival is this Sir Azrael, who is introduced in the first play. He ends up being killed off in the fourth play, or seemingly killed off. Um, and we have the dynamics of the sons of Lot. But we were introduced in the first place to Arthur's family, Morgause and Morgan Le Fay. Here we get Sir Gawain as the oldest of the sons of Lot. Then there's Sir Agravain, who's a real dick, and then there's Sir Gaheris, who is sort of tagging along, trying to help his older brother. And in this play, it's only Agravain and Gawain are old enough to have become knights. Gaheris is a knight in training. Sir Gareth, also known as Beaumine or Beaumines, is studying, or he's helping out in various parts of Camelot Castle. They are the sons of King Lot of Lothian or Orkney, which when he dies, before the beginnings of the plays, Arthur has elevated Morgause and says that he was her lover, and that her son, we don't know how he was conceived. We'll find out later in these plays. Modred, who is sometimes in some Arthurian stuff.
I hate Modred.
Yeah.
I hate Modred. I wanted to, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just have to talk about this little fuck. So I've always thought Modred was a severely underdeveloped character in the Arthurian mythos. I've seen him in a bunch of mini-series and everything where they do the King Arthur stuff. But you have him be essentially extremely cruel to animals, and Arthur in one scene disciplines him for his cruelty to animals. Talk a little bit about that scene. I also wanted to say one thing before I forget, that Thomas has read the fourth play, and he says that it's sort of left ambiguous whether or not Mordred ends up killing King Arthur. It's sort of leading up to that in the fifth play. I think that I'm wondering if the Fall of Camelot involves Dagonet instead of Modred. I wonder if you're just
Dagonet was a minor character, a little bit more well known than Sir Azrael. One of the things I wanted to do was put my own imprint on it, and Dagonet throughout plays 3, 4, and 5 especially becomes an important character, and I think he's probably, if this were Hollywood jargon and this was a Hollywood TV, he's the breakout character. He's the character that
he's the Iago.
Yeah, but we find out a lot of things about Dagonet. But no, Modred is the thing, and we find out later in the play I'm doing, especially, we get the revelation, because play 1 sets up and deconstructs the mythos. My play 5 rejiggers the end of Camelot, but Modred is still the trigger. But it's why, and it involves the Grail quest in play 4, which Tom read. But anyway, here Modred is shown to be a budding psychopath. Now we'll find out later that a lot of that has to do with Morgause, and why Morgause hates her younger brother Arthur, known as Damodwine. And we also find out, I don't know if it's in this play, but we also find out, and I think in the first play, that the real name of Arthur was Modred too, which borrows from Launcelot being Sir Galahad initially, or Galahad initially when he was born. But there's a lot of that name swapping and stuff, and I use a lot of the melodramatic techniques from modern soap operas here too, to good effect. But Modred is a little prick, and then there's the scene where he basically gets caught having abused this animal, and King Arthur tells, I think is it Sir Kai, it's pronounced Kai, not K, but Sir Kai, to whip Modred, and he just sort of gently hits him with 3 lashes on his bare ass, and this is something that in the rest of the 3 plays that follow seemingly scars Modred, which shows how out of proportion he takes things and how self-important he is. But yeah, Modred is a character too, that we will find out though that Modred has legitimate gripes. In most of Arthurian literature, Modred is shown as either a psychopath or a schemer or something. But here, he is a psychopath probably, but he ultimately is in the right, and we'll find out why he's in the right to want to be king of Britain rather than Arthur later on when we find out Arthur's true parentage, which is my invention. I was never satisfied with the bullshit of him being a Pendragon, uh, and I tie that up in play four, Arthur's background. But anyway, before we went off on mode, what was it? Oh, I was talking about. So Agravain is a little dick. Uh, Gaheris is the tag along. He seems to be following, or is he really following? Because it seems to be in his dreams. Maybe he's just following his brother in his dreams. And then Gareth is the good brother. Gareth, uh, in the fifth play I'm writing it, Gareth is the best of the sons of Lot. I mean, he's the best human being. Although Gawain is the greatest. He's the knight par excellence.